Hello, welcome to this week's Midweek message for Thursday, the 4th of April. Gardening must be wonderful, peaceful, creative. It must be rewarding, and it's even gently therapeutic. Wonderful way to spend your time. And many people just love being in their garden. So what more beautiful time than springtime for the resurrection of Jesus? The tomb where Jesus was laid after his death on the cross was in a garden, and we may imagine it to have been beautiful, a covering of green perhaps, and interspersed with colourful flowers and with fresh leafy trees all around. And this is where Jesus began his resurrection life, in a garden. Well, some 1500 years later, Martin Luther, the Protestant reformer, was to write, "Our Lord has written the promise of the resurrection, not in books alone, but in every leaf of springtime." And so the promise of the resurrection is there to see in every new beginning, in every new bud, leaf, flower. A wonderful place for this awesome new beginning from God. For it's in a garden that seeds holding the secret of new life are planted, only to die as seeds and then to bring a new kind of life, where they grow to fulfill a beauty and fulfill a usefulness all of their own, a new and different life. As Michael Council once wrote, Mary Magdalene met the risen Christ and she thought he was a gardener, which of course he is. He tends our souls as a gardener tends the plants. He baptizes us with water. He feeds us with love. He prunes us when our souls grow lank and straggly. He protects us from more harm than we can cope with before we have grown firm and strong. And a good gardener also needs an artistic sense to see where each plant will look its best and relate well with other plants. And a deep passion for growing things must fill the heart of the gardener. So isn't this what God the gardener does with each of us? Nurturing and encouraging us to move on or stay as we are, whatever is most useful, wherever we will best thrive. Have you heard of George Russell, who lived between 1857 and 1951? He was a jobbing gardener in New York and he lived in a house without a garden. But that didn't stop him from developing the beautiful multicoloured Russell lupins. At the age of 10, he began working as a gardener's boy, and he had to work for long hours and in all weathers. And after many years and in his 50s, he began experimenting with lupins, crossing and recrossing the original straggling blue lupins into the straight and rounded colourful petals that made him famous throughout the world. And he brought out the best in his plants. Well, the flower experts came along and they tried to persuade him to sell his plants to them. And he could have made a lot of money, but he refused. He said, "These flowers are my children. How can I sell them?" He had tended and nurtured as a good and experienced gardener, loving and caring so much that he could not bear to be parted from them or to see them exploited and used to make profit. So he won many awards on the horticultural scene. But, as one of his biographers has said, his greatest reward was in knowing that he had brought a little more beauty into the world. And isn't this what all gardeners do, what God himself does? So what of those who had less opportunity to experience God's nurturing when young? Many today would not call themselves a person of faith. But someone called Jeanette Winterton, a writer of fiction, appears to understand life in a different way, in a more quirky way perhaps. She has said that while not being religious, she is interested in transcendence, and that it's because she is convinced of the invisible world that she writes in the way that she does. She has said that every year she rereads the Easter story, and each year this persuades her that the world of the Spirit, a world other than our earthly life, is the only answer that speaks to her, explains to her, explains the sense of imprisonment that she and so many others experience in modern life. She explains that the world of the Spirit sets her free because it appeals to the world of feelings, and feelings are the power that makes art and literature what it is. As a writer, this opened her eyes, and she explains that the Easter story allows her, and all of us, to think beyond what can and can't happen. She also thinks that the Easter story may even take her into a world where anything may exist, where all things are possible, just as we believe heaven to be. There is hope even for those who today find themselves unable to believe, and yet would like to believe in heaven and in the resurrection. There must be many people who feel there is more to life than in this world, but who are not quite convinced that Christianity is the answer. People who would like to believe in the resurrection and the life that comes after, but they find this just too difficult. Does Jesus perhaps see them as the special ones in need of extra care and nurturing, until the day when they too can truly flourish into spiritual beings, beings who will live forever? May God's blessing be with you, and thank you for joining me today.